So we got CNN fake news. We got. There's a lot of camera for those that can't see. There's certainly like 10 cameras on us. This side's my good side. So what I was saying, Mohammed, is 18 people were killed. 12, all of them were of fighting age. All of them were male. 12 of them, Hamas and Islamic Jihad and Fatah, have mentioned were militants from their organisation.
So you're talking just to kind of step back again. You're talking about the protests.
Yeah, talking about the protests.
And those protests which were met with the resistance of the IDF.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're saying from that, this is the
I'm saying of the fatalities.
The official statistics is that there were 18 people.
Yeah,
that
on
were
the
killed.
first day.
Fine,
on the
no
first
problem.
Friday.
On the first day. Okay, fine. Let's take that as a figure. No problem. Yeah. Do you accept that should not have happened in a state that calls itself democratic, and that aims to protect the rights of...
It is not democratic. When was the last election in Gaza?
I'm not talking about Gaza, I'm talking about
Israel. I was like, well, they haven't had elections there in 12 years. We can't call Hamas democratic.
So I'm talking about Israel. So Israel calls itself democratic, which means that protest is one of those emblems for democracy, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah. So this, again... If it was protest, if that was women and children that had been shot,
so long as it's men, it's okay.
No. What were they doing?
What protesting?
No. What is Hamas called this protest for? And why did Fatah condemn? Why did Fatah? Okay, so
you've just said that.
Why
12
did
people,
I've told you, not the cameras.
I apologize. You just said. I'm using your words. I don't want to get caught up. And like you said, the statistics. You said that there were 12 from Hamas and from Islamic Jihad, which that would suggest that were 6 that were not.
No. So six men of fighting age.
Yes, fine.
Islamic Jihad and Fatah and Hamas didn't claim, but they very easily could be militants.
No problem. But we know that from the history of Hamas and also other Islamic groups like it, that whenever they have an opportunity to claim people on their side, they do so.
That's
right?
not true.
No, very true.
That's categorically not true.
Okay.
What's been shown is whenever there is conflicts in Gaza, they will strip military uniforms from Hamas operatives that are killed and dress them in civilian clothes so they can claim their civilian casualties.
Joseph, you're an intelligent man. Whenever is a very generic term. Okay, so we can't say that in every situation where there's been casualties, that process has taken place.
No, I'm not saying every situation. I'm saying that there's evidence that Hamas do this.
Right, okay, no problem.
That's all
Even
I'm
if we accept that, right?
Yeah.
6 people, let's say, 6 individuals, according to yourself. I don't want to get caught up in...
Do you know what Fatah said about this?
Okay, sorry, to finish off the statement. 6 individuals who are protesting were killed by the IDF. Do you regret that?
So why were they killed?
So is it? Do you condemn that or not?
No. So I'm asking you, why were they killed? We have to have a conversation.
Because they were protesting.
Just because they were protesting.
Yeah, just like there was
30,000 people protesting. Why weren't 30,000 people killed? What was the difference between these 18 and the other 17 to 30,000, depending on whose statistics?
We said specifically because we've got to focus on fatalities. Yeah?
No. So you're saying they were killed for protesting. So I'm responding to that and asking, why were the other 17,000 to 30,000, depending whose numbers you trust, why were they not killed?
I'll tell you the reason why. Depending on the size and the scale of the protest. Now, if you look at the first and the second intifadas, the first and the second intifadas in 1987, the first one, and in the 2000s, the second one. The second intifadas saw a much higher death rate of Palestinians of over 3,000 or 4,000.
Let me phrase it in a different way. Really, where were they killed? Where were the 18 people who were killed? Where were they killed?
So you're talking about the border, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the issue?
Okay, so
they should be
killed.
So
let me quote the Fatah. Let me quote Fatah. Fatah came out and explicitly condemned Hamas. They said Hamas immobilized. Hamas wants 2 things from the protest.
Okay, no problem. I mean, this is aside the question I'm asking.
No, it's not. You can't dictate the terms of the debate.
No problem. Go
ahead.
Go ahead.
So Hamas called a protest because they wanted to breach the fence, yeah?
Okay.
And that's why they've got all the tyres which they're burning, and you can watch the videos of Palestinians trying to cut through the fence and cut through the barbed wire, because the Palestinians Hamas want the fence breached. Now, why do they want armed militants who are shooting on Israeli positions to breach the fence? Why?
Who's armed militants?
So Hamas, your videos I can show you.
We're not talking about the armed militants here.
No, we are. We just said that armed militants of Hamas were killed.
No. We said 12 of those were killed. And then now I'm just focusing on 6 lives.
Okay, I'm saying we don't know if they're militants or not.
Okay.
But we're asking where were they killed? And they were killed they were killed trying to breach Israel's border.
Right, Joseph,
Hamas
with the greatest of respect, here we're in a forum of free discussion and debate. But it seems like what you're doing, I'm happy that in the beginning, okay, and and the people would be a witness to this. In the beginning, you did actually say, you condemned the fact that those people were celebrating the death of that man.
That happened in December. That was nothing to do with these protests, but yeah.
You said you regret that, or you condemned that. Yeah. Then you tried to kind of say that it wasn't the IDF that did it, or people among the IDF.
No, the IDF shot, but there were two people
But there were
who
some
cheering,
other people that were doing that, and you were saying that it wasn't the IDF.
No, I'm not saying anything. I'm saying I don't know who they were. There were two other parties that's been investigated.
It could have been the IDF.
Yeah. It could have been or could not have been. I'm saying I don't know.
Then we talked about the deaths of those individuals in the protest.
Yeah.
The 6 individuals that were killed, and then that were not part of Hamas, according to yourself, not according to...
No. I've never said that. You're putting words in my mouth. I said Hamas and Islamic Jihad have claimed 12. Fatah have claimed some of the ones that Hamas claimed were their militants.
Okay, no problem. And then we said there were 6 that were not in that category. Now, all I want you to do here is I want you to realize something very important, right? For us to be intellectually honest with ourselves and for us to be fair, and just like you were when you praised myself and Ali Dawa and these things, I want you to do the same thing. When we talk about not just the history of the first and the second Intifada, I'm not going to go beyond that because we're going to go into the 80s, the deep 80s.
But again, you're dictating the terms of where the conversation goes. And this is one of the things I really don't like about Speaker's Corner, is you get a big crowd of people and someone dictates the terms of the conversation.
I was just about to finish the question. You can ask me, you're free to ask me whatever question you want, as you have been. But I was just going to say that in those instances, it's very clear that the IDF have been responsible for the excesses, for certain excesses. And they have been responsible for the death of civilians. Now, what I'm saying is, that kind of thing, in my opinion, should be condemned very blatantly by people like yourself.
Okay, so I'll respond. So when IDF soldiers don't follow protocol and kill civilians, they're hauled in front of the Israeli judicial sentence.
Do you reckon that works? Do you reckon that the judiciary in Israel, works in a systematic way so as to ensure the minority status of those Muslim Palestinians living within their own state and those living within the Palestinian territories? Do you think they do that?
So you're saying, I believe that they are the judiciary are incredibly moral. They're always in conflict with the government.
So you think
they're always overruling the government.
So why didn't they overrule the government's positions on settlements?
So we're jumping around, but I'm happy to go to settlements. First and foremost, define for the cameras what a settlement is.
So what I understand of settlements is that when you're building infrastructure, and in your case, you're actually not your personal case, but in the case of the Israeli government, they're building literally land and towns now. I see cities being built on land which is clearly not their land.
Okay, so let's go there. So you're saying not their land. So what is Palestinian land? Define the borders.
The Palestinian territories after 1967, is that what you're talking about?
You're saying that they're building settlements on Palestinian land?
My own personal opinion.
No, for the settlement claim, based on the settlement. So when you're talking about settlements building on someone else's land, what's the borders of the land that they're building on?
We know the borders. According to the UN, they say things like, okay, so we know about Jerusalem, that it's an international city, for example, that it doesn't belong to anyone in particular. And then when we talk about the West Bank...
Sorry, where does it say that? Are you talking about the original 1947 partition plan? Which was rejected by both the Israelis and the Palestinians?
No, I'm talking about, according to the UN, who does Jerusalem belong to?
So Jerusalem, according to the United... but then I'm answering your border question, so I'll answer that. But I want to know, first and foremost, what are the Palestinians...
That's part of it.
Okay, so you're saying Jerusalem's an international city, so anyone building in Jerusalem effectively is a settler. So whether that Palestinian or Israeli, they're settlers, yeah? If it's an international city.
So no, I'm saying according to the UN.
Yeah, so
according to the UN. Yeah. According to the UN. Okay, so Jerusalem, Eastern Jerusalem. I'm not sure what the specifics, but I think Eastern Jerusalem has been designated as an international city or something of that sort.
No. Okay, so I'll tell you my
if I'm wrong. But having said that, the borders. There is consensus among anyone who's ever read international law that what's happening in the West Bank is settlement in a land which is not not belong. You have to give. So what in your opinion is Israel? Israel?
So I can give my opinion what Israel is.
Yes, please go ahead. Does it extend to Egypt and Sinai and Peninsula and beyond?
Nonsense. No.
No. Okay. Because you were talking about I'm just asking you, right? Because you and I both know that from a rabbinical perspective, a lot of rabbis have actually said that Israel is what extends from the Euphrates River to the Nile.
Which rabbi said that?
Many rabbis have said this.
Which one?
I'll send you the links. No
Okay,
problem. I'll
so
send
the
you links.
cameras, I'm not aware of any, Rabbi. What the Torah
What
talks
the Torah
about is
talks
the
about?
biblical territory.
Yeah,
it
that's
talks
the
about
biblical
between
territory.
the two rivers.
Rivers, right.
Not
From
the
the-
Nile and Euphrates. That's speculation on your part.
Okay, so
so
wait.
we don't know the rivers. We don't know. Some say it's one of the rivers in Sinai. I've forgotten the name of it.
What river in Sinai?
So I've forgotten the name, unfortunately, but not the Nile. It's not the Nile. It's a
What
smaller
river
one.
in Sinai? I don't know what it's called.
Okay, it's not very
The two
compelling.
great rivers.
But anyway,
you've got the Euphrates and you have the Nile.
it doesn't say great rivers. It says the two rivers. You're-
The Tigris and Euphrates?
No, it's not. Anyway, this is a boring thing for people.
No, no,
but just to come back, just
what do you see as Israel?
yeah, exactly. So,
So
that-
is it? Because now I don't want to go beyond 1948 and still talk about the Balfour Declaration because I would just say
Balfour
to you,
Declaration's got nothing to do with Israel's modern borders. When the
Well,
Balfour
actually, it has
Declaration,
everything to do
when
with it.
how?
okay, when the Balfour Declaration was
When the Balfour Declaration was written,
Yeah.
Britain was not a sovereign power in that region.
what do you mean?
In 1917,
Okay.
Britain was not a sovereign power in that region.
But it was a colonial power.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Britain were awarded the mandate after the Ottoman Empire collapsed.
you don't
they
consider that colonialism?
Britain took the mandate
Wait,
in
that's
1921.
quite weird, isn't it?
Listen,
that is weird.
Listen. Instead of just you're saying in 1917,
Yes.
Britain was a sovereign power over that region. It wasn't. They
I
got the
didn't
mandate.
say that. I said it was a colonial power.
A colonial power. It wasn't a colonial power either.
So
they
you
didn't
think-
get the
wait,
mandate
hold on,
until
hold on.
1921.
No, hold on.
They weren't a power there.
I know the mandate is something, but the mandate, I start the clock when when the first soldiers went into Palestine.
Okay, but
British
that was
soldiers.
part of World War One, though, no?
World War, yeah.
Yeah, they were fighting
yes, it
in
was.
World
Yes,
War
it was.
One.
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, this is so many tangents. We're going to get lost. You
The
asked me
point
about
being is
Israel.
They were a colonial power. Then they handed over land to the immigrants from
They
Europe.
didn't. Your history is wrong.
Tell me why it's wrong.
Okay, so we'll go through the history very quickly.
Well, let's go back Chaim Weizmann when he talked about Uganda being alternative.
Chaim Weizmann, no, it wasn't. That was the Uganda plan,
Yes,
which was
yes.
actually part of Kenya, and it was Herzl. Nothing to do. Anyway,
Weizmann rejected it.
People can fact check.
He rejected one part of it, which is good.
People can fact check this all for themselves on the internet. What I want to say, which is really
Go
important,
ahead.
is your history. So Britain, when they wrote the Balfour Declaration, which was that Britain would support a national home in that region, didn't have any territory in that region. Yeah.
But they became a colonial power.
The-
At least
few
let's
years
start,
later-
no problem. 1924, the British mandate to rule Palestine. No problem.
Can you ask this guy not to heckle, please?
Yeah, don't know. 1924, let's say. No issues, yeah? Let's say 1924.
Let's
Had it not been.
So Britain were awarded the mandate
Okay.
on the condition they honour the Balfour Declaration.
Okay.
Yeah. What was British Mandatory Palestine? What was its borders? Do you know? The viewers won't know either, so it doesn't matter if you know or don't know.
Don't tell me the answer.
British Mandatory Palestine was Jordan, Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank. Yeah.
Jordan. Was
Yeah.
Jordan part of that?
Jordan was part of British Mandatory Palestine. Britain said they supported a Jewish national home as long as it didn't come at the expense of anyone in that region. Yeah. So the first thing the
Here, I
British
fast forwarded to Chaim
So can I
Weizmann
just
and
can I
Uganda plan.
just
And
finish?
you said that it wasn't
can I
Chaim
just
Weizmann.
this is can I just finish my point?
Yes, go ahead.
So British Mandatory Palestine was divided. 70% of the land was given to the Arabs. The first thing the British did when they took sovereignty
Do you reckon
over
that's all right?
the first thing the British did when they took sovereignty of the land, when they took ownership of the land or mandate of the land, they gave the largest amount of land possible to the Arabs. The Jews expected.
they're based
what
it on population.
The Jews, yeah, I've got no issue with them doing that. I agree. Jews were a smaller minority population in the region at the time. Arabs were bigger, so Arabs got the majority of the land. What was left, the Jews anticipated as being the Jewish national home. Yeah.
Excellent.
But
So-
let me just finish because you're talking about borders.
You are talking
You're
quite a lot.
Okay, fine.
No problem. Go finish your sentence. I haven't got a problem with you finishing. I think you're used to people just attacking you.
I am.
I'm
Actually,
not attacking you right now. I'm giving you a chance
that's good.
to
That's
say your
good.
version of
And
history.
thank
No
you.
problem.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
And so my version of history is the largest amount of land possible was given to the Arabs.
Give him a chance to say
What
it.
was left of the land was supposed to be a Jewish homeland. The Arabs who were living there and in the Arab world in general rejected it. The civil war broke out. The British couldn't handle the problem. The British decided after giving away a load of land to the Arabs, they couldn't control Israel, the West Bank and Gaza, and they gave that to the United Nations. The United Nations then took a vote on what to do, and they voted to partition. Exactly, they voted to partition the land. Britain abstained from the vote. Britain was one of 2 Western nations that refused to vote in the partition vote. So Britain didn't create Israel. The United Nations voted to recognise it, and then Israel declared independence very quickly. 8 Arab armies invaded, and now we're getting to the border. Though you asked me about the borders. This is why it's coming around to. Israel was invaded by 8 Arab armies.
Where's 8?
8,
count
so
them.
Arab.
Tell them to wait.
No, I'm happy. I'm not if you've got it.
Okay. So you have Syria.
Of course.
Having a history lesson.
We are having my
I
history
don't
lesson.
think the history is relevant in this case.
But
It
he's asking. We're talking about
Yeah, no, but we're coming to it. We're building a
The
case.
problem is that if one side dropped their weapons, there would be no war, and if the other side drops this weapon, every single Jewish person in Israel will die.
Okay, thank you for that. Go ahead.
And I'm saying this because 3 years ago I was relieved from my service as a soldier in the IDF.
Okay, nice one. So come here if you're a soldier in the IDF. Come and speak to us.
I'm not a soldier anymore.
Well, you were. Come here and let's talk about you being a soldier in the IDF.
It's valuable.
Come here. You got experience.
Okay,
so
so
we have the leader of the Israeli
Jewish
advocacy
people.
movement, and then you have a former IDF fighter. Yeah.
No, not fighter. Instructor.
Whatever. You are working with the IDF. Yeah. All right, no problem. I'm happy to have you here. Thank you very much.
I'm happy to have you here.
Okay, so for me, the issue is talking about the history not being relevant. This is why because I've let you speak for about 3 minutes.
You have. You've been
All
very
I
good,
was going to say
Mohammed.
to you is that why I personally believe that the history is incredibly relevant. Forget about Israel, like you said for a second. Forget about Forget about this whole Zionist thing. Forget about it. Yeah. Let's pretend we're in Speaker's Corner in 2100. Yeah. Well, 2100, or let's say 2080. And let's do a little counterfactual history right now. Yeah. Let's do a little counterfactual history right now. Yeah. Let us pretend that the Islamic State, or they call themselves the Islamic State, Daesh, or ISIS, or ISIL, or whatever they are, they were able to establish themselves a state. Let's just pretend for the sake of argument. And now they've got their own infrastructures, they've got their own parliament, they've got this and that and whatever. Someone he's now born into the Islamic State, and now this is fast forward to 2100, comes over here in Speaker's Corner, and he's making the case for the legitimacy of the Islamic State. He starts saying, look, the Islamic State, expelled the Yazidis and these things, and he starts making excuses and these things. He says, however, what is history doesn't matter anymore, because history of the past doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I'm not saying it doesn't matter.
That's what you just said.
No,
so
I
history
said
doesn't
that
matter
this
anymore.
argument is irrelevant anymore because
Fine.
both have
I'm just saying,
history
Which
in the
means
land.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
We
it doesn't
want to
matter.
solve this now. We are
Whichever
sick
way
of
you say it.
Rota.
Rotem, if your great-grandchild spoke to that person's great-grandchild who's saying that the Islamic State is a legitimate
I'm
state.
saying I'm tired of burying my family, and the other side is tired of burying their
Okay,
family
no
as well.
problem, no
And in
problem, Rosa.
2008, we offered 94% of the West Bank,
Rotem,
and they said no.
I haven't got a problem with what you're saying now. I'm just saying something
We
else.
wanna make peace.
But listen, Rotem, we might be you, right? But I'm just speaking here generally about a specific counterfactual history. I want your opinion on it, right? Your great-grandchild or your grandchild or your daughter, she's having a conversation with someone else who's now part of this Islamic State, or they were born in it, yeah? Or
You
the
know what?
Daesh.
If it was 200 years ago, I would say you stay. That's why exactly I don't come to Poland
So-
or to Germany and ask the Germans to give back my grandfather's
Okay,
house.
excellent. So the Islamic
But
State.
that's not the case in Israel.
So
My
the-
family has been in Israel since the Second Temple.
No, that's fine. Now I've understood your point, right? Your point is, so long as you win a country in war,
No, she's not saying that.
It's fine.
She said her family has been there for 2,000
that's
years
fine.
at least.
That's a fair enough point. If you believe in that, then you.
That's not
no,
belief,
no,
that's
no, no,
proven.
No problem. I accept.
In
if you
Peen.
if you believe in that, that's not a problem. What you say then is you don't say I believe in a democratic or a liberal logic. You
No,
don't say
she's not
that.
saying that at all.
So-
You're talking about
I'm
the rights
saying
of
I want two
indigenous
states.
people. You're saying the Palestinians are an indigenous people. Yeah, that's what most Muslims will say.
European
Yeah,
Jews are-
she's saying that Jews,
yes, go
Jews
ahead.
are also indigenous to that land. I've got a friend, a very close friend of mine.
What we're going back to?
There you go.
What is
No,
up?
no, I've got a friend of mine from Gaza. They lived there continuously until 48 when the Egyptians kicked them out.
Egyptians.
The Egyptians kicked them out in 1948. Yeah, when the Egyptians conquered Gaza.
I thought you were talking all the way back to the
Oh,
ancient
no, not
Egyptians.
Pharaoh,
I know
not
you guys-
Pharaoh.
I know
I mean-
you guys do that.
That was different religion,
Go ahead, go
different
ahead.
people.
Different rulers, but no, the Egyptians kicked them out, yeah, and they had to go and do it wider Israel. All we're saying is, she said she supports a two-state solution, so she supports the potential for a Palestinian state, yeah. Why
Is that what
can't?
you support as well?
So I'll be absolutely honest. I used to be 100% for a two-state solution.
support now?
Now I have whether it's a one-state, two-state, 29-state. I just want peace, and whatever's going to bring
Okay.
peace about, that's what I support.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, I
Okay,
come from
good.
a family
Okay, that's an
that
easy thing to say. I
died.
hope.
No, it's
I
not.
hope
No,
this
I
can be-
come
And I'll
from a
keep-
family that buried their son. I need to every year I visit my
Well, a Muslim family or
a Jewish family, and I have Muslim friends that buried their family as well. I go to my dad's grave, my uncle's graves, my friends' graves every single year, and I am tired of burying my family.
fine.
We are sick and tired of it.
But
We tried
with
making.
respect, Rotem, with respect. Like if we could, sorry.
And
if we
I
could-
agree with you. There are families that lost their dear ones on the other side as well, and
No,
we
it's not,
need
it's not.
it to
You've made,
stop.
sorry, Rotem,
Yes.
with the greatest of respect, you've made the Palestinian casualty, respective to the Israeli casualty, the exception and not the rule. The rule is the Palestinian casualty, and the exception is the Israeli casualty. If
have
you
a
look at the
question.
amount of casualties in the two intifadas, there were of an excess of 10,000 people in two of
Do you
those
want to talk
intifadas.
about the casualties that the German experienced in the Second World War?
It's nothing to do with. It's nothing to do with the Muslims.
No, but if one side attacks the other, then if the other side is stronger, the casualties on the
So
other
what's
side will
World
probably
War
be.
II and Hitler got to do with the Palestinian experience?
Okay, let's just say Hitler was bad, right?
Yes,
He attacked England, right?
Israel,
He attacked England. He attacked England, right?
England. Okay, yeah.
I'm right? I'm correct?
Yeah, all
I'm
right.
sorry, my English is not as good. as
No,
yours.
it's good. Go ahead.
England fought back, right?
Okay.
I'm correct. So
Yeah,
far?
yeah, all right.
Killed a lot of Germans, right?
Killed a lot of.
Germans, England,
Yeah,
right?
okay, yeah.
Germans also killed a lot of English,
Yes.
but England killed more Germans than English, right?
England killed.
More Germans than the Germans
I haven't looked
killed
at the
England.
stats. I haven't looked at the stats.
More or less.
Maybe, yeah, probably. I don't know. Yeah, go on.
Some innocent died, right?
Some innocent.
Yeah, from both sides,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But still, Brits killed more Germans because the Germans attacked, right?
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Now, I feel sorry for every single person that was born in Gaza, lived horrible lives with
good.
horrible government and corrupt government.
What government are
And
we
I
talking
do,
about?
but
The
at the
Israeli
same,
one?
no,
Hamas.
the
12 years
Hamas.
there haven't been an election there.
So do you reckon that? Do you actually
Let me
believe
just
that the
finish.
Israeli government?
Let me just finish.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay? I was in Beersheba when we signed a ceasefire, and then 10 minutes later, there were 14 rockets fired at me.
Okay.
If one side
Those
dropped
little rockets
its
are
weapon,
fireworks.
if Israel
There's
dropped
little fireworks
its
that kill
weapon,
people.
How many people have they killed?
it
compared
was
to the
not
Israeli one?
fireworks, honey. I was there. I saw the fireworks next to me.
They're small rockets. There are small.
This is-
rockets.
There's
They're
more
handmade
rockets that
rockets.
kill people.
This is the disgrace of the conversation
No, it
because
isn't.
you belittle Jewish suffering, Israeli Arab and
It's
Jewish
not
and
even
Jewish.
the suffering part. It's if Israel
just said
dropped
that
its
the
weapon,
rockets
we
are
will
not
all die.
comparable.
And if
When you-
Gaza stopped fighting
when you
and
got-
wanted to
when you
talk,
got-
the war will be over.
What we're talking about is a disparity in the military capabilities of two places.
We're not, because you make the mistake. You think it's just Israel and Palestinians. It's Israel, Iran, Syria. You've got major.
Well, do you reckon
pa-
Syria
and
it's
Iran
not-
are involved?
It's an Israeli-Arab conflict.
Do you
We've been
reckon-
outgunned and outnumbered.
Depends on what
I'm
you're
not
talking
even
about. You're
talking
talking about
about
the recent
military.
period.
I'm talking about the fact that we
You're talking about her
have
life.
Who
3
gives-
to
who
5
gives
terror
Hamas the weapons
attacks
they
a
use?
day. What do you want us to do with it?
Who gave Hamas the weapons that they fired at her?
Pardon?
Who gave Hamas the weapons that they fired
Let's
at her?
leave other countries
So,
aside.
No, Iran.
are you
It's
talking about
Iran.
Syria
Okay,
and
let's leave
Iran,
that aside
but
for a
not
second.
anymore.
What is your name?
Not
again?
anymore.
What is your name?
Mohammed.
Mohammed.
Nice to meet you.
I wouldn't do it.
So,
I wouldn't do it.
let's not
Go on.
talk about other countries for a second, okay? Let's talk about Israel and Palestine. Okay? Not Iran, no
We
America,
will not
just
to embarrass
us.
someone.
Iran and Syria are not
Let's
funding
leave them be for a
Hamas now.
second.
Do not to
Do you know who was
embarrass.
funding Hamas in 1980?
So this is an
No,
age.
no, no. Do you know who was funding Hamas
You're
in
going to say
1980?
the Israeli government?
Yeah, the Israeli government was
Yes,
funding.
Can you show us the
fight
evidence?
back. May I
Well,
for a
she
second?
accepts the evidence.
May I
Do
for
you
a
know the
second?
reason why they were funding them?
Muhammad, may I talk for a second?
No, you tell us.
Because they saw the PLO as the biggest threat. You see,
Why is that funny?
I find
no,
it-
no.
look,
Why is that funny?
Let me find that interesting. Let me tell you why I find that really interesting. Right? I find this stuff incredibly interesting because, you know, depending upon the particular time period, the narrative changes. In the 1980s, you were more concerned with Arab nationalism than you were with Islamism. So now it has to be the bad Arab, and today it has to be the bad Muslim. So the idea is this: the
So Hamas aren't bad.
the Israeli government. No, I'm not saying that they're
Hamas
not bad.
bad is for
No, we
everyone.
do condemn the
For
actions
every
that they
single
do, of
person in
course, yeah.
Gaza.
Like blowing themselves up and these things. I don't accept that stuff. But what I'm saying to you is.
They're making people work to
But
build
what I'm
tunnels.
saying to you, generally speaking, is that the Israeli government has not been consistent in its policies, morally consistent. It's only been strategically consistent in the sense that it only funds those parties which it sees is beneficial to its own cause.
What
The
is
1980s,
and what if England does?
This,
no problem.
this conversation just jumps from thing to thing. Can we just get one simple? Can we set some premise? She's just said she recognises a future Palestinian state. I will say, if it means peace for the Jewish people and the Arab people in that region, I support a two-state solution. So I support a future Palestinian state. Can you just at least say whether you support an Israeli state or not, just so we know who we're talking to?
Well, look, me personally, I don't even believe that it can happen.
No,
I don't
forget
believe
what
it can happen.
I'm asking. What you support?
No, I don't support anything in particular. I don't support
No,
anything.
no,
in
no,
Do you
It's
just
a cop-out.
argument for the sake of argument?
Well, I don't have to make a policy recommendation. I'm not a politician in the Middle East.
Then what the hell are you doing in Speaker's Corner talking about a conflict which is ruining the lives of millions of people in
Hold on.
that land?
Why do we
I'm
have to?
talking as a humanitarian who want people in Gaza to have good lives.
Guys.
And
Why
Hamas
do-
is ruining their lives.
Why do I have to make
You're
your solution?
shushing me and you're not letting me speak.
Sorry, I apologize. Go ahead.
I just said this is not a conflict for other countries, okay? Let's leave America aside for a second, Iran aside a second, okay? We just had a year of 3 to 5 terror attacks a day in 2015.
Pardon?
2015, we had 3 to 5 terror attacks a day.
Who?
In Israel, we had 3 to
How do you
5
define terrorism? How do you define it?
ramming sprees.
No, that's not what. That's not. how
Okay,
the
I'll give you a definition of
Okay,
terrorism.
this is how I feel. May I?
Okay,
Thank
please.
Yeah,
you.
go ahead, please. Define terrorism, please.
Okay, do you agree with me that 2 terrorists walked into a house and murdered a mom, a dad, a 4-year-old,
I'm
a
asking you how you
12-year-old, and a
define
4-month-year-old?
I'm asking
Do you
you
agree
how
with?
you.
Let me finish.
How you define terrorism?
Please let me finish. Do you agree with me that that's terrorism?
Yeah,
Murdering
okay,
a family
yeah.
from either side.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you agree with me that there was
So how do you define it?
Jewish terrorists as well who burned a family, the Dawabsha family?
Okay, yeah.
It happened,
All right.
right?
So okay, so how do you define terrorism?
Let me. May I?
Of course you are. You're
Thank
given
you.
the
But
opportunity.
you're constantly interrupting me.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we want to deal with that, we can't just sit down and do nothing because this will continue.
Death to Israel, bro. They stole land, innit?
Death to Israel! Death to Israel! Death to Israel!
Are you going to say that's a logical reason?
Israel is not terrorist.
Israel's a terrorist. All right, guys, the kid. Your kid
And
hasn't been killed.
you are the problem!
No, that
You
was my
are the
dad. I'm
problem.
sorry.
Haven't been killed.
You're the problem!
Hot-headed,
Hot-headed, ignorant people are the problem.
How do you define terrorism?
You've never been there!
Term is any sort of violence that's based on
Political aim.
no. Based on political reasons.
Okay. Which is quite similar to the British.
Sorry.
British law.
State violence is completely different to terrorism.
Tell me why.
State violence is much worse.
Why?
Because
Oh, it's worse.
it kills huge numbers of people. When a nation carpet bombs, say Vietnam, that's incomparable to a terrorist like
Hamas.
Daesh in Paris.
Yes.
I would say Hamas are on the border of state violence and terrorism.
Because
They
they kind
fuse
of.
both.
All right, no problem. So you're admitting that state violence towards civilian populations.
Towards any population
Towards any-
is more serious
Yeah,
than
okay.
terrorism.
No problem. It's more
Terrorism is usually used as a
Would you-
means
would
to
you say-
terrorize.
No problem. Excellent. So would you say that it's more morally repugnant?
Would I say it depends on the context? So, for instance, when the British government and the Allies crushed the Nazis, that was state violence against the. No, listen, you ask a question, then you have to listen to the answer. That was state violence against the Nazi regime. It was brutal. It was horrific. It killed huge numbers of people, but it was, in my opinion, morally just.
Okay, so I'm asking you, when there is intentional.
Hit someone and killed someone.
I'm not going to say
You can't shoot
intentional
him.
targeting of civilians, but I'm going to say
You know what
targeting
happened if Scotland
which is
did
known.
what the
to kill
Palestinians are doing to
a
Israel.
majority of civilians over and above combatants.
If New
Would you call that
Jersey
terrorism?
shot rockets at New
it's
York
not
or
terrorism.
built tunnels,
Terrorism,
if you know that when you're going to make it,
now,
you're going to strike
I agree
someone,
with you. What they're
that
going
that strike
to
is going to mean
and
that
they're
a
going to
majority
war.
of
What does Israel do? What does it, you're talking about collateral damage, yeah? Which is a horrible term. Collateral damage. No, no, you are. You basically said where there's a military target, where there's a military target, and a large number of civilians are killed to hit that military target. That, in common parlance, is called collateral damage, and that's a horrible word to describe the death of civilians. However, what does Israel do in the situation? So you're talking about Israel and Gaza. Gaza City is densely populated. Hamas attacked Israel from densely populated positions. So what Israel will do, so for instance, the United Nations has condemned Hamas for hiding and firing missiles from its schools.
You you condemn the fact. You made your point, yeah?
I actually hadn't, but so what